Welcome to Free Talk Friday on a Monday with myself, James Kimberley, and Kyle Heath, both of Kimberley IT. How are you doing, Kyle?
Yeah, I am good on this Tuesday.
It's Tuesday because it was a bank holiday yesterday.
That's right. That's right. The irrelevant bank holiday. But yes, here it is, Tuesday.
It is an odd one, isn't it? It's just in the middle of nowhere, that bank holiday.
Yep, it is, isn't it?
Is there about 4 bank holidays in May?
No, there's 2 in May, but it always seems like more than that because I think Easter tends to fall around that time as well. It seems to be like the run of holidays, and then you get the whole summer, and then you get this thing dumped in August, and that's your lot.
That's it until Christmas.
Yes, but that's for another talk, isn't it? The irrelevancy of bank holidays. That's not what we're talking about today.
So what are we talking about?
Well, you tell me.
Talking about the difference between free and paid for, specifically with Google services.
Yes, the difference between free and paid for in online services, particularly referenced because it's relevant to you, dear listener, Google services, but actually it's quite relevant to lots of different free versus paid for things you can buy online.
There are essentially 2 types of people who use the free services, and they get slightly in some cases confused, in other cases not too sure what they're doing. So you've got everyone's seeing the window cleaner driving around in their fan with a free Gmail address on the back. That's somebody who's decided to use free Gmail and he really likes it and it's working well for him, but he's missing out on the benefits of having a paid for version of it. And then you've got the other side where you've got people who've thought about going for the paid for version. They thought, oh, why don't I get a free Gmail account and use free Google Drive and free Gmail on that and see what it's like. And they've then associated that with the business version. And if it doesn't do what they wanted to do, they've also associated that with the business version, not realizing that actually these are 2 completely different versions.
Yeah, I think it's quite to understand what the free version is for. And this model's been around for a long time now online. Pretty much anything you want to use online, you can get a free trial or you can start using it for free. So there's either a period of time in which you can use it for free and then you have to pay, or with many things, there's a free version of it. Like I listen to a lot of music via Spotify and I've got the free account. I don't have a paid account with Spotify, which means I have to tolerate adverts every 5 or 8 minutes. And I don't mind. The music's background for me, so I don't mind the adverts coming in and out. I don't generally hear them. They're irrelevant to me. But if you're really listening to the music, then the adverts are probably going to bug you and therefore you'll want to pay. Ultimately, very similar service, but there is a clear distinction in that one, for free, you've got to give up something in order to get something for free. And that's the bit I find, James, that people don't get with, say, the free Gmail, is they don't understand that in order to get that great free email service, you got to give something up in return.
Yeah, exactly. And you've also, a lot of people fail to realize that they're actually getting a different feature set as well. They're getting a basic feature set. They're not getting the full set that you get once you flip to a paid version. A good example would be with Gmail. On the free version, you don't get to pick where your emails or your data is stored. It could be on a US server, it could be a European server or somewhere else in the world. Google make that decision. Whatever's more profitable for them is where they're going to be keeping your data. On the paid for version, you get extra controls where you can say, actually, I only want my data to stay in Europe. And because you're paying for that, you get these extra controls that you don't get on the free version. And this is what you can miss when you decide to go for a free version, to base your decision on buying a paid for version based on the free version. You miss a lot of the features and you don't even realize they exist. That's why you should always be speaking to somebody to get advice on which versions to go for.
Yes. Yeah, that rolls back to when people complained recently that Facebook changed their algorithm and they couldn't get any more what's called organic reach. So you create your own page on Facebook for free and then suddenly you go, oh, well, no one sees it anymore, and they start complaining and moaning about it. But again, it's for free, so what did you kind of expect? And this is the same thing that you'll get with free products, is that you've got to accept there'll be some parts of it that aren't customizable, that you have no control over. And ultimately with the free service, James, the most difficult part for a business is you don't own anything. So theoretically, Google could just shut you down at any moment because you don't owe them any money.
Yep, you don't own your data. So all those companies that have got a Yahoo email address don't own their emails that are inside that inbox. If Yahoo want to shut it down because someone's reported you for violating terms of service. That's up to Yahoo. If they're going to shut you down, you have no say in that. It could be someone who's reported you because they just don't like you, not actually done anything wrong. But again, you're handing that risk over to Yahoo, who's going to make the final decision without you having any say, which is what you get with a free product.
It's probably not as much as that goes on as people might worry about, but actually, if you're in competition with somebody and you can see they've got a free service account, actually, yeah, you've got the ability to report them for abuse.
That's just an example of how you haven't got control over that data. So, for example, with a business version of Gmail, you have your reseller that you have contact with, who has direct contact with Google. You have a whole process that you can go through before someone's going to shut your account down. You actually have people inside the organizations that you can speak to and discuss. They can let you know what's going on, vice versa. And because it's your data, you can take your data out beforehand. So if it was a big falling out you had with somebody at a company that you're paying for their services, you own your data and they're going to have to hand that data back to you. No matter what their decision is, you've got to have your data back, which you can then put elsewhere, which you won't get with a free service.
Yes. And I see a lot of people who do use free services, particularly things like Dropbox as well. That's one where it's very, very common for people to have a free account, because Dropbox captured the market about 6 or 7 years ago in the same way that PayPal did, by kind of offering it something for free, and then they incentivized you. You got more storage for everyone else that you signed up, so you became a recruitment technique. And many people have got Dropbox accounts because of that period of time. And then they started using them because it was quite a helpful tool at the time. No one else was really doing it in such a way. And you've put all your business inside it, but you're not paying Dropbox anything for it.
Yeah, there's lots of legacy apps like that around. And of course, because you're not paying for it, don't own your data. But secondly, you have no agreement over the service level of that service. If it goes down, it goes down. It's when Dropbox wants to bring it back for you, however long it takes them to repair it. If you're paying for a product, you've got an expectation there that they're going to be working on that and bringing it back live as soon as possible.
Yeah, and the misconception, I think, for people is that I hear a lot of people who are smaller businesses or solopreneurs and will say, look, I can't afford to spend lots of money on IT as I'm starting to start my business and grow my business, so I use Dropbox because it's free, which I can understand. You don't want to be writing a lot of checks at the start of your business, but actually a paid service could be as low as $660 a month, which is like 75 quid a year or something. And if you can't afford 75 quid a year to keep all your email and your documents and things safe online with the paid service, you probably haven't got a business anyway at that point. If you be brutally honest, you need a bit more startup money than 75 quid.
Yeah, that's correct completely. The other businesses that get trapped into it are charities. They'll often use free services because it's free, not realizing that actually they can get the business versions of these products. So, for example, G Suite for Business, which is what most businesses are on, at £6.60 per user per month. A charity can actually get all that service for free as long as they're registered correctly as a charity. A lot miss out on that because they don't look into it or they don't know about it, and they opt for going for free services, which again, basically, when it comes down to it, we're going to be saying it quite a lot. When it comes down to free service, you don't own your data once you've stuck it on that service. And this is the key point. You need to be using a service where you keep control of your data, because that's your IP, and that has a value when you go on to resell your business or do something else for your business. But going back to charities, a lot of them miss this out, that they can get this stuff for free.
Well, I agree. I'm going to come back to the charities in just a moment on that one. But your point there about the data and the value of the data, you're absolutely right. Your data is pretty much everything in your business. It's irrelevant of whether you deliver a service or whether you manufacture goods or whatever it is. That's all ancillary to your data, because without the data in the business, the rest of it can't happen. You can replace all the people. You can be replaced. And ultimately, you might want to be replaced at some point when you might want to sell your business and be replaced. But without the data, there's no business. So no business data, you're dead in the water. And no one really knows this until they've nearly lost their data, or they thought they were going to lose the data. And I'm not trying to troll us over into a backup talk here, James. I'm not trying to take us off the piste into a completely different direction.
About going to backup, bringing it in is worthwhile mentioning it, because if you're using a free service, it's very unlikely that you're using a backup service, because I don't know of any free backup services that offer free backup for nothing at all. A backup service you will typically have to pay for, because they need to make money somehow. And if you're using a free service, I bet you have not got a backup service.
I think that I know one off that. I can't think that there is one. You can get some very good value backup services per month. You don't have to pay a lot of money. Free one? No, you're right. There isn't really one. You can try before you buy. That's how it works. You can have 30 days for free with most of them, and then it goes paid. That's how those services work, because they can't do a free one, because why would you? The service is what it is. It is a backup, and therefore, if it was free, you just wouldn't pay. It's a completely one-sided service, but you get 30 days for free. And you're right in also mentioning with a lot of the free services, particularly things like Dropbox again, people go, oh, well, I don't need a backup. I've got Dropbox. But it's not enough. It isn't enough, because if the data's in your Dropbox and you've got it synced on your Windows computer, for example, it doesn't take much to happen for you to get a virus, to use the old school terminology for it. You open the wrong thing, attachment from your email, and boof, all your data's got encrypted, and the criminals are asking for 1,000 Bitcoin, and that's you out the game, because everything you've got synced on your machine syncs up to Dropbox, and all that gets encrypted as well. So those free services don't support you in the same way the paid ones do, that probably have a version history you can go back to.
Yeah, so for example, if we go back to Google Drive, which is what we specialize in, there's a full version history there. And also in the admin panel, you've got the ability to bring back files from a previous date. And again, there's also third-party backup services that can be added onto that to give you an extra layer of protection as well, all missing, and you won't get them in free versions.
Yeah, and I know that that's something that you and I do. We do the extra level of backup for our clients, and many people say, why? In fact, they almost sometimes it can worry people. They can almost go, well, hang on a minute, you said that this service was so reliable, and then you're telling me I need to have a backup. But you know what? Belts and braces and all of that. There is nothing more important than the data in your business. And it's an irrelevance to our customers anyway, because we include it. But the point is that that extra level of backup, no one knows. No one knows what's going to happen. Nobody knows whether Google decides suddenly to go crazy and shut itself down. And you don't want to turn around and go, where's my data? And I go, oh, I didn't think about that. Don't have it. Sorry. You need to have your data. So a backup is, no matter what of these online services, whether you've got Google 365, anything, you've got to have a backup. But like I say, that's for a different topic.
Yeah, but
one thing I noticed, James, with free services, and this comes back to my old school IT, where you'll go, oh no, not servers and things. A lot of the free stuff, because I used to put up a lot of virtualization, and a lot of virtualization was based on something by VMware, and it was a product called ESXi. I'm not going to get too techie about it, but it was free, right? And you could put virtual machines together for nothing, and it was awesome. And then when you tried to back up your machines, you realized that you couldn't use any software to back it up in the free version. You had to have the paid version to switch that feature on that enabled you to do it. And that's when it all sort of clicked into place, because you thought, oh, I could use the free version, I could sell this, I could use this in my business. And then when you actually came to do the thing that was important, it wasn't the feature that was enabled. You had to pay to get that feature. And these are the subtle differences between free and paid services.
Well, it's more than just subtle differences. There are some massive differences between them. So, for example, if we go back to G Suite, you get a whole set of extra features. So on the free version, you get Gmail up to 15 gigabytes. You get Google Drive, Google Calendar, and all that, and you can download up to 15 gigabytes of data. You go to the business version, you then get unlimited data, but you then get some extra services that you don't have on the free. So you get your favorite cloud search. So you can go and look for everything you've got in your Google account, because on the business version, you then got the whole administrator backend, which gives you a whole layer of security, customization of settings, so you can stop people from sharing files if you don't want it to be shared or copied and things like that, which you can't do in the free version, because it's free version is just set default, decided by Google. Business version, you get a lot more controls, hundreds and hundreds of combinations of controls that can say, oh, I only want contractors to be able to access Gmail. I don't want them to be able to access other services, or vice versa. That you just don't get in the free version, and you will not see. So if you're using the free version to evaluate buying a business version, that's completely the wrong way to do it. You need to get a trial, a trial of the business version to evaluate it. You cannot compare a free version to a business version in any way.
No, you're absolutely right, and this harks back again to what we've talked about in the past with the home broadband versus business broadband. Both are broadband, but they are not the same, and this is exactly this. It's too easy to get fooled into thinking that the free version of something is the same as the business version, and sometimes I almost could blame the providers for it because they don't make the point of making that difference very clear. It's not obvious because they look the same. And intents and purposes, bits of them are the same because it's a test bed for one's for the other.
I guess the best part about it as well, with this being called software as a service, where the software is available for your web browser, most business versions will have a 14 or 30-day free trial, and you don't even need to speak to a salesperson. I assume a lot of people go for the free versions of the software because they think, oh, if I get in contact with the business version, I'm going to have to end up talking to a salesperson. I'm going to have to go through all that, have these calls and things like that. But you don't. For example, G Suite, you can go directly to Google's G Suite site, sign yourself up with accounts, you get a 30-day free trial. If you like it, enter your credit card and continue. If you don't like it, shut it down.
No, you're absolutely right. And I've done that many times with lots of different services over the years. I've definitely tried them out. And if they work for me, carried on paying for them. And if they haven't, then yeah, just quit them, shut them down. And I quit at that point. And it does boil down to, and the type of people that we're talking about here tend to be single solopreneurs up to about 5 people in a business will easily go and put together something made out of free services. Because right now I could put together 5 accounts, 5 hosted storage stuff, 5 video calls, 5 schematic drawings, 5 spreadsheets, 5 docs. I could do all of this stuff for free. Right now I could go and do it for free. And you might think, well, that sounds good, Carl. Actually, why don't you do a podcast about how I do that? But the point is that although I can put all that stuff together for free, if I put that into my business and then start getting used to it and then relying on it, and then something goes wrong, that's when you've got the big problem. That's when you've got the big problem. And that's why you can't rely on these free services. And you've got to switch your brain into gear a little bit. If everything's completely for free, why isn't everybody doing it?
Yeah, exactly. There's also a common set of services that we've noticed when we migrate people across or they join G Suite for the first time, the things that people are using for free, which is kind of, if your business is doing this, if you're using something like Google Calendar to schedule meetings, people like that because it's very easy to share calendars out, Dropbox or Google Drive, and you're using the free versions, you're doing something badly wrong in your business there and not having control over that stuff. And if you're getting value from them, if you're getting value from having your stuff, having Google Calendar to share things out, if you're getting value from Google Drive, having your files there and being able to revert to previous versions and easily share and manage them, you need to stop using the free versions and move to the paid for versions to give you that control of that data, because in the end it comes back to control of data and who has that control.
No, absolutely. You're absolutely right. And when say it's more and more relevant to people that work with us. And I'm talking here to people who are already using things like G Suite or might be using the free Gmail Docs and Drive services in their business, and they think, well, there's no need to change. And it's a bit like insurance again. It's not until the worst happens to you or the situation goes wrong or somebody's not in your partnership any longer that you realize that you've lost access to your data. You don't know who owns and controls what. And people double up on this stuff as well. I've known people who've gone, okay, I'm going to pay to use the Google services now. I'm happy to pay, but I still got my free Dropbox, which I like. I'm going to keep that. I'll keep my data in my free Dropbox. And why would you do that? Why do that? Because I know why you don't want to move. It's because you don't like the idea of having to learn something new. You know, there's this Google Drive thing you've bought, but you don't want to learn it because you already know Dropbox and you're comfortable, and you get lazy because humans are super, super lazy. And I'm not pointing fingers at people. I get lazy too. Everybody gets lazy. And these things don't let us deal with that very well. It's too easy to get stuck in them.
Yeah, exactly. I always, as you know, I struggle with people who carry on wanting to use Dropbox when they've got Google Drive, because it's as easy as copying and pasting your files from Dropbox to Google Drive to migrate them across. So, you know, depending on the amount of data you've got, it will rarely take more than a few hours to get that data across. And then you've essentially got the same user interface on both for the actual end user, how you use it. But you're getting all these extra features that you just haven't got in Dropbox or even on the free version of Google Drive to manage that data and store it and share it securely, especially with GDPR. It's really useful to be able to have all these extra controls and limit how this data is being used by your employees and who can access it, which you don't get. And that's why I struggle when people want to carry on using the free version as well as having they've got the paid for version, they're just not using it because they bought the whole package, but they're not using one of the main parts of that package.
Yeah, GDPR is a four-letter word to me after spending too much time on that for the last 6 months. But I know what you're referencing, James. And this, again, we're just reiterating around the same point and again, particularly what I've found in all the years I've ever worked in IT and technology is that people don't know what it is that they don't know. They find something that they get comfortable with and they don't want to change. Therefore, you've got this resistance to change that's natural in people, and they don't know what they don't know. And they don't know until the worst happens, until the poo hits the proverbial fan. And that's when they phone you up going, can you help me? Can you help me? I've lost this, I've lost that. And they don't realize what they should have done or what they've already been paying for and haven't used because they
too late by then as well. Once you've been hit, it's normally too late.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I've had people over years send, literally call me and say, my computer hard drive's failed in my laptop. It's got all the photographs I've taken of my child since they were born. They're 3 years old now, and my wife doesn't know that I never had another copy of them. Can you help me? That's a nasty situation. That's an example of a hardware failure where something's gone wrong. And yes, sometimes I've got people that data back. It's cost them, though, when they could have solved that problem very easily by having, for example, something that I do on my phone with my Google Drive is every time I take a photograph, it automatically uploads my photo to Google Photos. I choose to do it over the Wi-Fi rather than over my mobile data, but you can do both. And that means the chances of me ever losing any of the photographs of my kids, it's not going to happen because they're on my phone, then they're uploaded to Google Photos, and then my Google Photos is backed up. I've got that extra layer just in case something goes wrong with Google.
Well, it's like with my personal stuff as well. So a lot of people will use their the free stuff for personal use because that's what it's designed for. But again, you still don't have that complete control over your data there. So even with my personal stuff, I actually have a paid for G Suite account for that on a different domain, and that's where I save all my stuff, just so I've got that control of that data. Because I don't want to. I like Google, but I don't want them to have control of my data and rely on them to do the right thing. I want to have control of that, and I'll do the right thing myself. So I'm happy to pay for them, pay that extra for that ability to do what I feel is the right thing with my own data.
Yeah, I can kind of see where this podcast is going now. We might as well call this podcast, Why Don't You Bloody Pay For It? Because it's kind of going that direction. It's sort of saying to people, look, you get what you pay for in life. And this is never more relevant than when you use software services. And I know you used the phrase earlier on software as a service. And if you're listening out there and you're not sure what we're talking about, you might have seen the letters SaaS. Usually the S's are capitalized, and that stands for software as a service. And what that really means is you don't buy a CD in the post anymore that you install on your computer and you own forever. You are renting the software on a basis of whatever period you want to rent it for, usually per person per month, although you can, of course, get little discounts for going for annual subscriptions as well. But that's what this all means for those who weren't sure what we were talking about at that point.
So, Carl, what would your recommendations be to your local window cleaner who drives up to your house and you notice they've got a Yahoo email address on the side of the van? What would you advise them to do next?
Well, this is what I would advise them to do, James. What they want to do is own a name for their business to start with. So, for example, I own what's called a domain name. I own kyleheath.co.uk.
And that's like your house on the internet. If you think of like a land registry, you have a domain name that's registered to you, and that's your bit of like real estate on the internet.
Yes, that's right. And that's my personal one. I use that really for myself as an individual. Personally, I also use it with some reference to when I'm speaking and some other things that I do that aren't necessarily directly tied to what you and I do together in the business. So get one of those. They are no cost at all. They're a tenner a year. They're irrelevant in the scheme of a business. So to start with, get one as near to the name of your business as you can, or get your own name, something like that. Get one of those. Then what you want to do, you want to get yourself something like I would say the G Suite business account is a good place for somebody to start who's that kind of trader in a business, because they're going to get their email, they're going to get to be able to do their documents, so they can do some flyers for their customers, they can get some sheets so that they can do their accounting package, and they're going to be able to store all the stuff they've ever kept on their computer. They've got unlimited storage. They can shove all that in their music as well if they want to, and all their family photos. They can do a 2-in-1 for $660 odd a month. Not really a lot of money. And then sign changed on the van.
Yeah, and again, that's just some stickers that need to be peeled off and peeled on. And
the real reason, here's a reason for it, James, you might want to do it. Let's say that Yahoo suddenly decide to rebrand themselves, that you don't lose your Yahoo address, but they decide to change their name.
Very good point.
You've got to have all your headed paper, your business cards, and your van redone. So that's not cheap, and that's probably going to cost you more. So why not get it where you own it, and then you know that you'll never have to change any of your stationery, any of your cards, any of your van stickers, any of your advertising. None of it changes unless you decide to change, because you control the name.
As a customer to one of these services, if you knew that a business that you work with is using free services to look after their data, say like a free version of Microsoft OneDrive or even a free version of Google Drive, as a customer, what concerns would you have if you knew that knowledge about that business using a free version?
Well, you can imagine the worry that you've got there. So this is where you're talking about the phrase supply chain is what usually gets used in the corporate world. But yeah, a customer or somebody you buy from in order to provide something to somebody else, or somebody who buys from you. And your concern is there that because they don't control or own the data, if they lose access to it, what you're going to do about it at that point in time. And also, what does it say about how they operate? What does it say about how they take care of anything? If they've got the free version to run all their data, what else are they doing that might also be free?
Yeah, cutting costs in unnecessary places, really, when you consider the price of what it is, £6.60 a month. If they're cutting costs to say £6.60 a month, what else are they cutting? But what's the reason for that cut? Is it because their business is going to be failing in the future and you should be looking elsewhere for a replacement?
Yeah, absolutely. It is something you need to be concerned about, and this affects the small business more than anything else. This affects you 1, 2, 3, 5 person businesses who are looking to make some savings, and so have done this from the start, got themselves established, everything's going great, so you forget about it because it's not high on your priorities. But actually, that's the image you're conveying to other people when you use these free services. It makes you look a little bit risky. It can make you look a little bit cheap. What you want to do is take ownership, take control of it, have something that's branded and owned and controlled by you, and then you can give assurances to your customers, because somebody will ask you the question. Only today, we've been asked a question about GDPR by a client. They've asked a question about it, and we've been able to answer it and field it, and it was specific to Google. But people are asking this more and more often, and it's not going to get any less.
Yeah, so part of GDPR is you're meant to tell people how you're processing their data and things like that. But if you don't own the systems that it's on, you can't really do that 100% surely, because you don't know exactly. Well, one thing is you don't know where their data is being kept. If it's being kept in the United States or Europe and things like that. If you're doing if you're using free services.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, totally. And there was a bit that I didn't get a chance to speak about earlier on that's just jumped back into my mind, which was where you'd made a mention about charities. And charities often get caught up in this because their primary focus is not to spend money, but to get money for the donations that go to their worthy cause. And what this tends to lead them to do is go down this route of using free services without realizing the risk that it puts to the business. And ultimately, they're a business. Just the fact that the money doesn't go to shareholders and goes to a good cause doesn't make any difference, in my view. Is a business, and that's where the charities need to be very switched on and clever about this with who they get their advice from, because there's a lot of people out there that just give dodgy advice to charities and either want to profiteer out of them or tell them to do everything for free, and either of those are bad, because actually there's tons of stuff in the IT industry that's done to the benefit of charities. All the big players give free services. There's loads of free hardware in very, very well priced hardware that you can get as a charity. There's loads of stuff out there. But you do have to know who to talk to. You do need to get some straight, sensible advice, and not enough charities do.
Yeah, and you just got to make sure you're registered properly with all the charity commissions and those.
It's got to be a proper charity, James. You're absolutely right. You need to have a registered charity number to get this kind of stuff. But if you do, and you've got a registered charity number, and that means more than being a not-for-profit organisation.
Yeah,
A registered charity, you have got free access to lots and lots of IT, both hardware and software. But you won't know that unless you're talking to the right people who want to share it with you.
and you're not going to find it out by using a free version of the software.
Oh, no, it's not mentioned in the slightest. No, then none of the free services are, because, as you say, they're not geared towards, they're not designed to help a charity. They're designed for John Q. Citizen who wants a free email service, and in return they access your data. And I think that's something we haven't mentioned in this conversation, James, that people do say is, hang on a minute, if you use particularly Google, oh, you use Gmail, yes. Oh, well, I don't want Google reading all of my information. They read all your emails and they know what you're saying. There's no privacy. What do you say when people say that to you, James?
Well, that's changed recently in that Google no longer reads emails for advertisement, but they used to in the past. But I think if you look at Yahoo, maybe they still do it. So because you're using a free service, they need to get some money out of you in return. They need to be able to monetize it for them to be able to run the free service. So in the past, free Gmail would used to have adverts. Well, it still has adverts down the right-hand side, but these adverts would be related to what was written in the email to you.
Yep.
So they're contextualized. I know Google doesn't do that anymore on the free version of Gmail, but they still show adverts down the right-hand side. That's another thing we can come on to. If you're using a business version of Gmail, you don't get those adverts down the right-hand side. You get these extra menus that tells you about who's contacting you, extra contextual menus, and third-party plugins that appear there rather than adverts. But that's going off slightly. But I think Yahoo might still read your emails and use it to generate adverts. So that's what I'd say.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me if any of them did, if Outlook.com does as well. And you know what, even if they did, it never bothers me when people say that, oh, the free ones read your email. I'm like, yeah, so what? It's free. What did you expect? I just simply don't get it when people get frustrated about that whole thing with social media or any of these packages, when they have it for free and then they complain about why it doesn't do something, or they do something with their data when it's free and you haven't paid for it. Well, stop using it then. Just delete your account and don't use it, and then no one can look underneath your tinfoil hat then at that point.
And that's the key thing. If you're one of these people who doesn't like that, but you can't turn the service off because you need it and use it, you need to go to the business version. You need to get the version anyway, but this is the stepping stone to the business version.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. That's a very good point. If you then say, I can't get rid of it because I've got to use it in my business, then what you need to do is move to the business version. You need to be paying for the core IT services that you use in your business. There are some things out there that you can get for free, and I'm sure in the future we'll have a podcast that goes through some of the cool stuff that you can do out there for free and that has some validity in your business. But that will probably be where you create something and then save it later. You might, for example, create a infographic, or you might create something for your LinkedIn profile. And free tools can be great for that because you don't need them every day of the week. You can just use them now and again. Me core data, everything that matters to my business in a free service.
The decision is very similar to how you have a bank account. So your personal bank account is free banking. Your business account you pay for because you get these extra services on it, and it's a business and for business use. And it's the same with these with software services. Free is for consumer, as in a free bank account is for consumers, and business you pay for it because you get these extra features that are required for businesses. Quite a few of them are regulatory requirements that you need to run a business, especially with GDPR being one of the main focuses. But you also get the ISO regulatory. ISO certified qualifications on that product that it meets these levels.
Yes, and in the bank account analogy, most people understand that a business account is going to cost you and that a personal account is going to be free in banking. That's kind of understood. And it's funny how we see one thing in one way is understood and another in another. You won't complain about free-to-air television if there's a problem with the transmitter. It's free. You just have to wait until the transmitter's fixed, or whatever the problem is with the signal being received. If you pay for your cable, if you pay for your cable TV and it's down, you can have someone to go on and say, when will my service be back? When can I expect something to be resumed?
Going on to, we spoke earlier about someone who's using a free service and what you'd recommend them to do next. Conversely, what would you say to a business that's evaluating a product, but rather than doing a trial, they've gone on the free version? What should their steps be? I imagine one of their first steps would be to sign up for the trial, but then I guess there's people they can contact to help them and things like that. So what would your advice be to a business who's doing a trial, but they've opted to use the free version rather than the trial version of the software?
With the same advice that I always give in this area, James, which is, why are you doing it yourself?
Yep.
Why are you doing it yourself? You want to be outsourcing this. So outsourcing means either finding someone in your group of community of friends or other business owners that can help you with it, i.e. that's what they do professionally, and you can do some work with them. You can put that service out to something like Fiverr.com or People Per Hour, for example, if you wanted to create a graphic design and you're not a graphic designer, but you've got a rough idea of what you want it to look like. Well, you can hire someone to do that. Don't sit there learning the products and trialing out all the software when someone can do it for you in an hour for X amount of money. And if you're a bigger business and you're doing these things, you haven't got anybody to talk to about technology. So why is that? Pretty much you wouldn't run a business and not have an accountant. You wouldn't at the end of the year go, I'll do the books. I'll do all the books in the business. We're only $1 million turnover. It's not a problem. I'll sort all the corporation tax and the P11Ds myself. I'll save a few quid on that.
Well, you don't have to be doing. You can do a lot less than that to hand it over for accountants. So you should be doing that with your IT as well.
Well, that's what I mean. You wouldn't hand over your accountancy. You wouldn't do it yourself, and you wouldn't do your own legal work either. You wouldn't say you do your own legal work. And somebody might say, well, some people do. And yeah, they do. I've seen half-collared jobs and stuff. But you know what? You get what you pay for in life. And if you get your contracts with your suppliers and your employees free offline and don't ever have them checked out by a lawyer, and that you just take them as they are, then they'll be fine until you need them. And that's the same as IT. It'll be fine until you need it, until there's something goes wrong. And then you'll realize that it wasn't fit for purpose. It wasn't going to do the job you thought it was going to do. And then it's too late. There's nothing you can do about it. Then you're in the hole for whatever it is. You're in the legal hole and in court with it, with a tribunal, or your data's gone and it's lost. Sorry, start again.
Well, a good example of this would be if you haven't got someone specialized to help you, but it's very easy for you to go to a website and sign up for a free trial or a free version of the product. You then miss out on things. So, for example, when you mentioned about legal trials and stuff like that, straight away Google Vault popped into my head. Google Vault's part of G Suite, and it allows you to find data in your organization and lock it down so it can't be changed. It's an e-discovery tool, and it's used if you use it if you go to court, because you need that to find the data that's going to be referenced in the court case. But hey, if you're signing up for the free trial and stuff like that, you're never going to know about that product. You're never going to know that exists. It's where you need to contact an actual, in our case, a Google partner such as ourselves, who can actually show you these features that are available there and why you should be using them and why you should be paying for this software, because you're going to need an e-discovery tool. It might be a HR issue that you have in the future, and you need to go and find out about all the details about Colin, who's brought up a HR issue, and you need to see all the conversations that took place internally and all the documents. And you can do that with things such as Google Vault, which, as I said, you'll never know about if you haven't got someone there to help you who specializes in it.
Absolutely. Yeah, I absolutely agree on that one. And we have made a lot of references here today, talking particularly about G Suite and Google. And that is, of course, what we do. And there's a reason why we talk around that, mostly because that's what our business is focused around. Of course, other services are available. But I would also say, if you've got Outlook.com, then you probably want to talk to someone who does 365 and talk to somebody about that. Because again, the same problems will happen across all things. So don't think, if you're listening to this and you're not a Google person, that this is, oh, well, I'll ignore what these two guys have got to say. They're just talking about Google and they're biased towards Google or whatever. The still stands up no matter which or what flavor of service you want to use. The free ones won't do what you need in your business, and the paid ones do. And you need to switch from one to the other. If you're using free in your business, you need to get out of it and go into the paid service where you've got some guarantees and some safety, because that's what businesses are built upon, foundations of safety, so that then you can go ahead and do things that are a bit more adventurous. But don't start with the foundation that's adventurous. That's not a good way to start.
So I think we've covered a lot there, and it's it's a good podcast for people to learn about this kind of stuff there. I think to sum it up, it's essentially your data is your most important, valuable asset, and you must have control over that, and you're not going to have that on a free service. You therefore must go to a paid service where you have a contractual agreement with the provider and you have control of your data due to that.
Absolutely, James. We've said it before in the internet one. For me to sum up, I said in the internet one, if the internet doesn't bother you that much, turn it off and see how long you can last without it. If tomorrow morning you got up and went to work in your business and that you could not have access to any of your emails, your documents, your sheets, anything you've done before because it was in a free account, you can't have it. How do you feel about your business? Can you carry on? If you can, good luck to you. If you can't, maybe you should think about getting out of that free service.
I think that's a great sum up for the end of the podcast.
Yes, fabulous.
So, yes, don't forget to like and subscribe this podcast wherever you hear it. It helps us gain more followers and more listeners, and we can put more useful content out to people. You can also comment on any of the things you heard in this episode.
Yes, that's right. And I'm still going to plug myself. You can get me on Instagram at @thattechnologyguy. And you can also see what James and I do on Kimberley.com.
Yes, that's KIMBLEY.com, not the girl's name.
Yeah, good point, actually, that you should spell that out. I'm sure that's bugged you throughout your life.
It's constantly being spelled incorrectly. Apparently, a couple of generations ago, the surname was changed temporarily to the girly name of spelling it because they'd had enough of having to spell it out all the time. And then it went back to the complicated way.
Yes, with less letters.
But anyway, we'll see you. Well, we won't see you, but we'll talk to you and give you some advice next Monday.
Yes, indeed. Thank you very much. See you later.
Bye-bye.
Bye.